Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this young lady back. She, of course, the co-chair at the RNC. She's the daughter-in-law of President Trump. It's Lara Trump. Lara, how are you? Good to see you.
Hello. Great to be with you.
Man, I love the energy. I love the activity. I love that your inclusion in this entire process is on a level to where the people who are saying, is my vote going to count, now really believe it will, because you've been telling them so since you've been part of the RNC. Little over 2 weeks away. How you feeling?
We're feeling great. We are feeling really, really great. And I think what we've seen so far is, you're right. I think it's been important to make sure that voters feel confident when they go cast a ballot in the United States. And sadly, 2020 did a huge disservice to the country. And there were a lot of people left with a lot of open-ended questions. They never got those questions answered. And so we have said from the RNC, that is what we are going to do this election cycle. We're going to reestablish trust in this electoral process. Joe, we've reached across the aisle to our counterparts at the DNC. We've said, if you guys would like to join us in this pursuit, please come on over. Not a surprise. We have yet to hear back from those folks.
What?
We'll let you know if we do. But I think that it's looking really good. The messaging we've tried to put out is to vote early. And this is so, so important. It's vital for this election, because once somebody goes and votes early, we get that information at the RNC and the Trump campaign. We take you off our list to harass and to go after and to pull resources behind. And then we actually take those resources and we put them into our low propensity voters. And getting those people out is really going to make the difference in this election. Our early vote numbers in states like North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada have been historic so far. And I'm going to knock on wood, and we take nothing for granted. We keep our foot on the gas and we keep working hard all the way up until the buzzer sounds on election day and this sucker is locked up and done. But right now, if we stay on this trajectory we're currently on, it is going to be a landslide blowout victory come November 5th for Donald J. Trump.
I pray you're right. It's Lara Trump, RNC co-chair, also the host of The Right View. I'm here in Texas, as you know. I've got, I think, 15 stations in Texas. We've been pushing something for a long time, which is conservatives don't early vote. Conservatives don't mail-in vote. Conservatives like to wait in line on election day because we always thought there was an election day, and that's when we vote. But we've been pushing, you've been pushing, the president's been pushing, I've had Eric on a million times pushing, go and bank your vote. Lara, early voting started today in Texas. I don't know if you've heard anything out of Texas, but places where you normally would vote in about 5 minutes have lines around the building and people are waiting in line an hour or 2 hours. In solid red Texas, conservatives are coming out. I mean, that's not, have you heard that from other states too? I know that you mentioned it quickly, but here, that is so abnormal in Texas. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I love to hear it. I was in Georgia on Saturday, and it was the largest Saturday of voting in the state of Georgia in history. And we saw lines wrapped around the block, kind of like you're describing in Texas. We saw that this Saturday in Georgia as well. But I think, Joe, it just speaks to the nature of this election. I think everybody out there really can feel how imperative it is that we get Donald Trump back in the White House. We know that the Democrats are slippery. We know they pull last minute tricks. We know that they're not playing, always on the up and up. And so we want to counteract all of that. We've done everything we can from the RNC from a legal standpoint to make sure that the rules of the road are set up properly, that they are not able to cheat, that there's no nefarious activity. But I think the American people have heard loud and clear that they need to get out, get their vote banked, and then work from that day up until election day to get more people out to vote. I don't care if you got to take them in your car, buy them a coffee on the way. You can drink the coffee while they're in there voting. I don't care what it is. Get them out to vote, and that's how we're going to win this thing.
I think people are listening. It's Lara Trump. Go and follow her. It's Lara Lee Trump over on X, and go follow her everywhere that she happens to be. RNC co-chair, daughter-in-law, of course, of the president, the Right View host, and does an amazing job no matter what she's doing. The biggest question that we've had, and I've interviewed you a ton of times, thank you for the access, has always been, will my vote count? People are making sure their votes count. I think there's also a silent number of Trump voters out there. And what I mean by that, I'm sure you've heard this, is that people will not say they're going to vote for Trump, and they're going to. I still think they're afraid they're going to be ostracized somehow if they say I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. But there seems to be a silent minority, maybe, I don't think it's the majority of Trump voters, who are going to go and pull the lever. You feel that way too?
1,000%. I think that is 100% accurate. And I think It's really because, you've gotten we've sort of gone off the rails in this country with the political rhetoric and the demonizing, especially of a man like Donald Trump. And I think there are a lot of people out there who say to themselves, all right, I don't want to operate in my circle of friends who are primarily left leaning and talk openly about the fact that I'm going to support Donald Trump, but I can't afford to vote for Kamala Harris. I want to be able to put food on the table for my kids. I want to be able to fill up my gas tank. I want to feel safe in my communities. I want to know we have a secure southern border, and I want somebody in charge of this country who is going to lead us in a peace through strength type of way. And that's what we had with Donald Trump in the White House. And so I think there are so many people out there actually who are going to fall into this category. And I will say loud and clear, you don't have to tell a single person for whom you are voting. But when you go in that voting booth, vote your conscience, vote what you know matters, and vote like this country depends on it, because it does. And I think every time, Joe, that vote is going to be cast for Donald J. Trump. There are so many of those silent Trump supporters out there, and that's okay. We see you out there, and we appreciate you.
It's Lara Trump. Lara, you brought up Georgia earlier. There was a big day on January 5th, 2021, not the 6th. On the 5th, there were two runoff elections for Senate out of the great state of Georgia. Both went to the Democrats. After people went and studied what happened, the Republicans all sat on their hands, either thinking, A, they couldn't win, or B, we had it in the bag. And now you've got Warnock and the guy, John, what's his face? I can't think of his last name. But a couple of radical, progressive, lefty U.S. senators that both should have been for Republicans. So what do you have to say to people who are either thinking their vote doesn't count or thinking we got it in the bag? I don't have to go and vote in Texas and fill in the blank place. Because, again, those two seats should have been Republicans. Had the Republicans shown up just on a normal level, the Republican would have won both of those races, including Herschel Walker, that we pushed so hard for. What do you say to people like that?
Well, and think about how important that would have been for the state of affairs right now in this country. Right. Yeah. It would have swung it. And look at all the things that have, this horrible legislation that's been passed by Kamala Harris. Don't forget, she was the tie-breaking vote for that $2 trillion Senate bill, that egregious just grotesque bill that has caused inflation to go even higher, that has hurt the American people. There's so many reasons why these things matter and why it's important. Every vote matters. If there is any election, you have to get out and make sure you are voting. This is the one. Not only is it enough to get Donald Trump in the White House as the 47th president, he needs a Congress who is going to be able to work alongside of him to pass actual legislation that sticks. We don't want him ruling by executive order. We see why that doesn't work as well. Look at what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did when they first came in. They repealed 94 of his executive orders at the southern border. And look at 20 million people have walked right over our southern border. This stuff really matters. And so don't take anything for granted. Look, I just laid out for you sort of in the beginning of this why we feel really confident right now, why things are trending in the right direction for Republicans. We can never be relaxed about this thing. We can never take our foot off the gas. We never want to think we have it in the bag. I want everybody out there playing this game like we're 40 points behind up until the last second of this game. This thing is locked up. And then, Joe, I always say this. My goal is for us to go to bed early on election night. Man, we've had two elections, presidential elections, that have gone really late into the night.
Yes.
We're all going to be exhausted by the end of this thing. 15 days ago, I obviously would like a little bit of sleep. I need to go to bed early on election night. If everybody gets out there and votes, please let me have a night's sleep on November 5th. I would really love that.
I mean, I'm a lot older than you are, but my entire life, we have gone to bed early on election night knowing who won. The fact that we don't know that recently sucks. So I'm with you. Hopefully we can go to bed early that night. It's Lara Trump, RNC Co-Chair. Was it the most amazing troll ever that your father-in-law went and did the fries at McDonald? Lara, I'm watching this, and there is no proof whatsoever that Kamala Harris ever has been near a McDonald's. Not only did he go and do it, but he went and did it. He was like, I like this job. I might come back and do this job. He's waving at people. There are memes everywhere. Was that the ultimate troll, or what am I looking at? That was masterful. I couldn't believe how well that went yesterday.
Yeah, here I was thinking that the best troll of Donald Trump so far was actually showing up to the Al Smith dinner and knocking him dead with his comedy set. on Wednesday night or Thursday night last week. I thought that was great. And then he just one-upped it very quickly on Sunday at this McDonald's in Bucks County, which, by the way, Bucks County, Joe Biden narrowly won in 2020, and that's why that was an important stop for him as well, that McDonald's stop. But listen, I loved it, and I think that's the side of Donald Trump that the Democrats are afraid of the American people seeing, because it's humanizing. That was him interacting naturally with the staff at a McDonald's, going in there, honestly enjoying himself, enjoying making the fries, putting a little extra salt like we know he likes on the fries, standing at the drive-through window, passing it out to the fake news media. The whole thing was fantastic. Yeah. I loved every single second of it. I do think it was the ultimate troll. And I actually think I saw an article just minutes ago from McDonald's saying we have no record of Kamala Harris's employment at a McDonald's ever. So the fact
no, it's true.
It was McDonald's to opine on it is just, it's next level.
And McDonald's actually was very good in that release, saying, listen, we're not a political place, but we're very happy to have the presidential candidates come by. And no, we don't have any records from the 1980s. So it was all so cool to see, but you're seeing desperation on the other side as well. I think some so-called media outlets have fact-checked it and said, no, Donald Trump didn't really work at a McDonald's. He just did sort of a 50 minute. Guys, God forbid, we thought that he was actually an employee there. But then you've got Kamala Harris, who shows who she is every once in a while if you pay attention. I did a video that's up on Instagram and it's up on TikTok. It's got 500,000 views in a very short amount of time, where Kamala Harris in La Crosse, Wisconsin last week, somebody yelled out, "Christ is King and Jesus is Lord." And when they say that, she says, "Oh, you're at the wrong rally," and people start laughing. I didn't believe it at first. You're a journalist. I'm a journalist. I didn't want to report it until I knew. I just saw the view from her from the podium. It turns out there was a side view from a cell phone, and that's exactly what they yelled, and that's exactly what she said back. Then, of course, Sunday she showed up at the Baptist church, and she's a really good Christian religious person. Are they starting to get desperate, do you think? And again, I don't want to dissuade anybody from voting and act like it's in the bag. It's not. But I'm starting to feel some desperation from them, because suddenly she's starting to show who she really is.
Yeah, and she's a phony. Joe, we all know that. This is a phony candidate for whom no one cast a single vote. This is a phony campaign where they have infused hundreds of millions of dollars to try and drum up some sort of momentum for Kamala Harris and excitement for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I mean, are you kidding me? It's all phony. If you just tell Kamala Harris who she needs to be in the moment, and she will be that person. Right. She adapts and like a chameleon with the accents, the whole thing. People are like, wait, what is this? It's really gross. And it's getting bad on the left when you actually have some of these folks running for Senate seats, like Bob Casey, who's trying to hang on to his seat in Pennsylvania, aligning himself now with Donald Trump. He is running ads to say, oh, wait, no, I agree with Donald Trump on these things. They are trying to distance themselves and separate themselves from Kamala Harris, because when a sinking ship goes down, it takes everybody down with it. They're desperately trying to distance themselves from Kamala because they've seen the polling we've all seen. They've seen the betting odds going up in Donald Trump's favor. They felt the momentum shift and the excitement for Donald Trump. And I hate to break it to him. They're trying to peddle this idea that like Donald Trump is canceling events. Are you guys nuts? This is the hardest working person I have ever met in my life. I'll tell you, Joe, I go to events with my father-in-law and sometimes I introduce him, and we're talking like a 5-minute introduction. Meanwhile, he gets up and speaks for 90 minutes or so. We do these multiple stops a day. By the end of the day, I've maybe spoken for 15 minutes and he's spoken for like 5 hours. And he's still raring to go. And I'm like, God, I'm exhausted. He's amazing. And anyone trying to sell you on this phony notion that somehow Donald Trump has some sort of a questionable health situation, it's nonsense. We all know that. They are getting desperate because they see their candidate crumbling under the pressure of all of this. It's not working out well for her.
It's Lara Trump. Go to therighteView.com, GOP.com. She's the RNC Co-Chair. What blew my mind about that whole he's fatigued and he's unfit thing that she's trying to pull out of the bag now was that he has literally done double the rallies. We've added them up. He's done 2 times the rallies. He's done 6 news conferences where he's taken off-the-fly questions. She's done none. He showed up at the Al Smith dinner. She couldn't make it. So he's at Al Smith, did a podcast, did a rally the next day, then he went and worked at McDonald's or something. So I'm watching it unfold. She does one angry event in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in front of maybe 1,000 people where she's yelling, he could never be in that office ever again. And she's like screaming, like showing who she really is. So who do you think's in her ear saying, act like he's unfit? Because my lion eyes tell me something different.
Yeah, well, and I think the mark of a successful presidential campaign is like you want to be around it. There's like it's
Yes.
fun, it's good energy. That's Donald Trump. I want to be in a McDonald's where he's cooking up the fries and serving them. I certainly don't want to be in an event where somebody's screaming at me and it seems
Right.
like irate and kind of unhinged, like Kamala Harris. Who's telling her to do this stuff? Maybe the same person who told her not to go to the Al Smith dinner, which was an epic, epic failure. That was a disaster.
That's a
I
bad
mean, that
move.
one is certainly going to come back to bite her. I was there at that dinner. I can tell you when they played the video, that pre-recorded video with Molly Shannon, where she not only had to phone it in with a video, but she also had to farm out the actual comedy
Right.
to a comedian who used to be on SNL. You could have heard a pin drop in that room, Job.
I'll
No
bet.
one was excited about it. No one thought it was funny. It was very cringe. And unfortunately for her, I do believe that the Catholic Charities received that as a bit of a slap in the face. Good luck, because we all know the only other person running for president not to show up there was Walter Mondale, and the only state he won was Minnesota, which I guess with Tim Walz, maybe she's banking on.
Well, I mean, Minnesota is where Walter Mondale's from. That's why he won that state. It's
Yeah.
It's Lara Trump, RNC Co-Chair. Last question on all of this, Laura, and thank you for the great work you've done. You have made so many people who watch and listen to what I do feel so much better about the election, knowing that their vote is going to count. Let me just ask you about J.D. Vance quickly. I finally had the opportunity to interview him, and we argued about quarterbacks. It was actually a great interview. I had so much fun with him. But when he started going on the big mainstream media outlets, I was yelling at the screen, stop it. Now I want him to go on more because he's literally stopping the interview in the middle and saying, wait a second, why don't you ask her that? Or wait a second, let me tell you what's right. Let me fact check what you just tried to fact check with me. I think that it's been masterful making that guy the vice presidential nominee. Just give me your thoughts about going in. Did you have any apprehension about him sitting down with CNN and MSNBC and all these idiots?
Well, I think we all know that it's all gotcha questions, right?
Yes.
When you go on these shows, and I mean, I do them too. You have to do them. And look, we're not afraid to go and reach across the aisle and put ourselves in hostile territory. I did the Breakfast Club. I was on their show this morning, if you can believe that, Joe.
What?
So look, I'm happy to go anywhere, and I'm happy to talk to anybody, and so is JD Vance. But of course, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
I think the beauty of what he's been able to do is much like Donald Trump exposed how phony a lot of these news agencies, and I'll put that in quotes, are, because it's not news anymore. This is opinion, and it's political. We all know what it is. He's been able to expose them yet a step further and make them look like a bunch of idiots and fools. And I think that's a great thing for this country. I hope we can get back to a point where we actually have journalists in America, where we have people who report information and allow we the people to digest that information and come to our own decisions on what's going on, what we believe, how we're going to vote, instead of trying to tell us all of these things. That would be nice. So I have loved every second of JD Vance on TV. I want more of him out there.
Yeah.
I want to make it a mockery of these people because they deserve it. For years, they've been shilling for the Democrats. They've been a marketing arm for the Democrat Party, and it's about time they got their due. So kudos to JD Vance, our next vice president of the United States.
Lara Trump, God bless you for being a part of the RNC. God bless you for all you're doing for this country. And let's bring your father-in-law in about a week or 2 weeks in a day, and let's go to bed early that night knowing that he's
Amen.
won. That'd be great.
Amen, sir. I will second that motion. I'm right there with you. And thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you for getting the message out to people. Go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote early, and then take everybody you know to the polls. Make sure we do it. That's how we're going to make this thing too big to rig.
Thank you, Laura. You're the best.
Thank you.
All right. We're back after this. Stay right here.